Hello, Mr. Kablaze.
How's it going, dude?
All right, there we go. I think I have to turn myself down a little bit. All right, are we good? I think we're good. Hello, there we go. How's it going? How do I actually say your name? Because I feel like I kind of...
It's kablaze.
It is Kablaze? All right, cool.
Kaboom, but with a blaze, you know?
Oh, I feel ya. All right, welcome, dude. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Dude. No problem.
A little bit of an introduction about yourself, maybe, because I feel like it's easy to not have as much context around, you know, what you've done when you've joined, all that good stuff, as it is around the players that have been around for a long ass time.
Huh. I'm just a hidden hard rock player. Like, I don't think anything special except for how fast I climbed, really. Oh yeah, and I was restricted for a while.
Yeah. How did that happen? I mean, did you actually do anything bad, or was it kind of a...
I did.
You did? You don't have to elaborate if you don't want to, but, you know.
Yeah.
And then you got unrestricted a couple months ago?
Yeah.
All right.
That was around my peak, so.
I'm glad you stopped climbing, because it was like, I'm surrounded by so many good American players, and then you were also climbing really fast. I'm like, fuck, man. Soon it's...
I would have kept going if I didn't have to move.
Oh, that's why you stopped. Okay, because I was about to say, you were pulling some crazy shit, and then suddenly you kind of stopped playing? Was that because you were moving, or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, now you're kind of working back up to your skill level, or?
I'm on a completely new setup right now, so it's gonna be a bit hard.
Yeah, that always takes some time to get you a better one, or not necessarily?
I mean, it's kind of similar because it has. I use 490 for the tablet now, which has some input lag, I think.
All right,
it's pretty good.
Well, I am both excited and terrified to see you go back to it. You know, so there's that. Tell us a bit about how long ago you actually joined, like what your journey kind of was throughout your improvement. Because to me, for example, the main thing that stands out about you is that you're very, very consistent, right? Which still eludes me to this day. So tell us a bit about your journey so far.
So I guess I was searching for audio surf alternatives because I used to play a lot of audio surf.
Oh god, like the Steam game?
Yeah. The one where you're on a track and you just go left and right.
Yeah, I've played that.
Yeah, and I came across the mobile version of Osu.
The mobile version, all right.
Kind of super watered down and not very good.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, I had nothing to do, so I just picked up the game, FC and easy, and left for like 6 months.
How long ago was that?
2013.
Oh shit. Okay, that's 2.5 years ago, right?
July 2013. I think it's 3.5 or so.
Wow.
Would be December, which is when I started playing a lot.
Yeah.
Like, way too much. And the whole way it's just been competition. Just like finding a person that is willing to go back and forth and then beating them into the ground.
Oh, so you're actually your main focus is always someone else, not necessarily skill itself?
It was getting this skill to be better than someone else. So kind of
interesting. And who is your current one, if any?
After Toy, I haven't really had any. That's my problem.
How about Icky for an option?
Oh, dude, Icky, he's insane. I don't think I would ever be able to catch up to that guy.
That's not the right mindset.
His streams are ridiculous.
How does it work nowadays when because for me, I've been playing for God knows how long. Like, I kind of just went along with the difficulty of the maps as they progressed over the years, and I kind of, that was my route to getting better. How does it work nowadays? Do you just kind of pick random maps and then go through the difficulties, or?
Back when I I always set goals. So like if there's something like a song that I liked, like I know my first one was Snow Song Show. It was an insane. I ended up trying to bridge that gap by just grinding it over and over. So I put like 200 plays into it.
The same map? And you'd like do full plays of it?
Yeah, well, not full plays, but until I could pass it.
Oh, okay. So you did do a lot of playing stuff that you couldn't pass.
Only when it was necessary. Like once I got comfortable with Insanes, it was always what I had trouble full comboing. So I would get like 5 misses, 10 misses on something.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, that's doable. And work your way up to it.
Did you have any way to like kind of battle the mind block that comes along with that? Because for me personally, when I retry something over and over, eventually I just can't even hold 100 combo because it'll just like shit miss left and right.
I kind of just like, I don't know. I read the map the same way every time.
Oh, really?
Because it's the same thing. Yeah, so it's just kind of like working out. You can do the same thing if you've done it once. Like you can probably do it again, right? So. Just,
I mean that sounds logical, right? But generally.
So you just do it again, and then you work out the kinks.
Huh? Would you say what would you say is the most important factor to your progression? Because all in all, it was pretty damn fast.
Well, I think it was probably a mix of mindset, and probably some talent. Because I don't think that I had to work very hard compared to other people to get what I have. Like I still played like 8 hours a day over summers.
That's interesting to actually hear someone that is currently top 50 to say that it's probably partially talent.
Yeah, because like I had a bit of music. Like I played trumpet for 4 years, so I was rhythmically like I knew how to tap to the beat basically.
Right.
And streams, I didn't really try on streams. Like streams just came to me. So
they came to you in a vision at night. All right. Is there any particular way that you would focus on consistency stuff? Because I when you got on band, I don't know if your skill was like that on Ripple, like the same type. But you just kind of shit out like near SS runs in like a couple tries, which I can only imagine doing if I am like super on point and my reading is super on point. Sometimes I'll have like a glimpse of understanding what that must feel like. But is that something that you would feel like, oh, I can just stop doing this today, come back to tomorrow and have the same type of consistency? How does that even work?
I don't think it's the exact same day to day, but how I have my setup usually, which is why I'm so bad right now, is I have everything in the same location, like exact same location every day, exact same grip, exact same like everything. So if one of those little things is messed up, I'm not going to do well at all. But as long as I can keep those consistent, and for improvement on consistency, I think it's a lot of full comboing. Like,
okay.
Kind of just going farming. Farming is a good way. A lot of people don't like farming. They're like, farming doesn't help you improve at all. But for me, it's once you have those fundamental skills, applying them through farming helps solidify them, I think.
It's so interesting. There's like no one that is neutral about farming. Either people are like, oh yeah, that's a great way to get better, or it's like, no, don't fucking play for PP. What is wrong with you? Oh my god.
Yeah, I think you need a healthy balance though, because if you don't have the fundamental skills and you're just trying to farm, there's nothing to solidify. You're just farming.
That's kind of what I ran into personally. It was just the fact that I didn't really have necessarily an approach. I was just kind of throwing myself at these things over and over and over and expecting to somehow get better, which then never happened. What are very common mistakes that you see a lot of players make as compared to yourself? In terms of their approach, because you're relatively new, so there is, I'm sure, a lot of people in every rank range that have played just as long as you.
I think there's this thing where Players think fast is better,
Right.
of. So they'll grind up these like really fast maps that they can't play properly, and then at a certain point, some of them that's all they can do. So they don't have the fundamentals. All they have is this really weird spammy like super fast style, and I've been seeing that more and more, and it's kind of weird.
So how do you say
that it's so common?
Because you just said like I focused on clearing stuff that I couldn't do, and the only way that I feel that that is something you can then go from not being able to pass to passing is really kind of just turning into that whack-a-mole, because not guacamole, whack-a-mole type of play, and until you can pass it, because otherwise, like, that's just, I'm not sure how to express it. Do you know what I mean? Like that
Yeah,
that kind of I feel is the opposite of solidifying.
Yeah. It's kind of like, well, I mean, in a way, it's kind of like building those fundamentals in a different way. Because, I mean, there's a few ways that you can do that, like consistently. You can either practice what you specifically want to in like a controlled setting. So like you'll have practice maps that focus on those things,
Right.
or like you'll be trying to pass something that involves that. And yeah, so I mean, passing, I don't think for consistency, if that's what you're looking for, I don't think just passing things will help very much. But for skill, I think that would help probably.
What are your personal, like, what are the main things that you spend time on to mainly get your consistency and all that good stuff?
Consistency, like I said earlier, I've been farming score actually recently.
Score. All right.
Yeah, I haven't been
Okay.
very successful.
All right.
But playing these really long maps, like 12 minutes, 20 minutes, and trying to full combo. I guess at a higher level of consistency, that's helpful. At a lower level, I think just trying to full combo things, and also building, like, there's fundamental skills to like consistency. I feel like reading, aim are the big ones, and they kind of work together to make consistency.
Right.
Yeah, so like training aim individually by like playing precise maps, like small CS or big jumps, and then I guess reading is more about comprehension. It's more about just like visually, what do you see, how are you processing it? So trying to figure out patterns and stuff like that. If you do those two things individually, I think it helps you understand the map more, or understand the game.
How do you feel low AR and very snappy play plays into all of that? Because for me, what I've really noticed is that the better my low AR reading is on a given day, and the better my snapping is, the more consistent I am on higher ARs.
Lower AR, it helps you think about the game in a different way, but more importantly, I think aim, it does affect your aim, because it's kind of different. You have to focus on multiple things at the same time because of like note density and stuff. So always knowing where you are, I think, sort of helps.
Yeah, I think that the main thing that really helped is the fact that you kind of have to finish all your motions properly.
Yeah.
Is that's what it forces you to do, which then carries over into
Yeah.
consistency is what I personally have come to the conclusion after these last 2 weeks. What are some common mistakes that you still find yourself making? Like for me, for example, it would be just retrying something mindlessly. What are stuff that you run into?
I guess it's hard to say, because sometimes I guess maybe I'll
Because I'm
like
so
something.
damn perfect.
Please. Sometimes I'll like something too much and I'll just keep going, like Ice Angel.
Right.
I wanted it so bad, so I ended up putting like 700 plays into it, in Hard Rock,
Damn.
and I can't do that anymore. I can't do the map anymore.
Oh,
That
so
same
you
thing
do
with
run
the
into
Black
like
and
mind
Red
block
and-
stuff at a certain
Yeah.
level. Okay, cool.
But like it's It's more of like a nervous thing. Like the more I play something, the more I hype it up in my mind.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
unwillingly.
Yeah. That's something a lot of people run into.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone has experience with that. Is there any? Do you get very nervous at the end of maps when you're doing really well, or?
I try to drop accuracy in maps sometimes. Just
Right.
because like, if it's not up to my standards, I don't really feel like the same thing happened with Snow White, I think.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. You have number one on
what
that,
was
right?
other one? Yeah, but it's like there's two better accuracy plays on it. I just wasn't nervous at the end, so I didn't get any 100s.
That is so weird.
So
that's the same as Itki
weird,
says.
the scoring system.
Like, just make sure that you have huge expectations, so that basically anything that you do realistically is going to be worse than that. So you say that there's a lot of truth to that?
I do. Yeah, because if you're expecting more, it's just not even, like, it's not even a good play in your mind at a certain point.
If it's not an SS?
It becomes a lot easier. Yeah.
What are some of your views on what the ideal player would have in terms of approach to playing?
As an approach?
Yeah, a general approach, not necessarily the skill set, just how they would go about developing those skills. And would you say that that's something that you're going for or not?
I don't think I went for it. I think it just kind of was how I was. But I think to go about improvement, the best way is to think that you will. Like, not that you can, kind of, or not that you're trying to improve, but that you will improve. You will get better.
Okay.
And yeah, it's sort of like a weird overconfidence thing where you're convincing yourself like you'll be good someday.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it helps. It definitely helped me. Yeah.
Helps you to be very cocky.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I remember Toy hated me for that.
It's not a likable trait, but if it helps, you know.
It helps so much. Yeah, I've seen a friend lately has kind of been adopting it, and he's been improving a lot. So I think it works. It might not be desirable, but it works.
Huh. Interesting. Okay. Would you I don't know if you've been following the past 2 weeks at all. What would you say? No, not. Okay. What I'm doing right now is mainly focusing on old maps with weird patterns, low AR stuff to like improve snapping. What is other stuff that you feel would be, even if it takes a lot of focus, that would be a lot of bang for your buck in terms of what to focus on?
For consistency, it's just like I've said this a few times I think already, but full comboing.
Right.
To go through and full combo easier stuff. It kind of gives you like it doesn't really help you improve so much, but it kind of gives you the confidence to full combo things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is also a big thing, like we said, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and it also gives you like on easier maps you usually run like AR9, so it kind of gives you a bit of reading too, and it helps you keep that skill. For everything else, it's just practicing, like whatever you have to think about what would do it for you, like what would help you improve, what you've seen has helped you improve, and then just apply that over and over.
Have you looked at any other particular players' approach yourself and kind of emulated that, or was it just something that you just picked up for yourself and adjusted as you went?
I looked at other people. I looked at people around my skill level at what they were doing, and I tried to beat it.
Right.
So I don't think maybe like setup wise, no. I just did my own thing, but as far as what people played, yeah, I just picked it up from other people.
Do you have any views on what you feel makes people like Hookazee and Marucci and White Wolves as unique as they are?
I think a large part of it is just, I know Wubblewolf and Naruchi, they kind of had a thing where it seems like they never really got nervous.
I mean, I talked to White Wolf. I asked him, or Wolf. I asked him, do you get nervous? He's like, yeah, every time. Still really nervous. Yeah,
He doesn't show it.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I think part of that might be because their reading is so on point that even when they do get nervous,
Maybe.
that is for me, like what I know for me personally, when I get nervous, my reading is the first thing to go. And then along with the shaking is kind of just derp, right? Maybe if your reading is super good. Sorry, what?
Like if you're shaking too much,
yeah.
Try tensing your legs, because that's part of what I do.
What?
Sometimes. And yeah, if you tense your legs up, all that tension that comes from like your nervousness, kind of for me it feels like it's redirected.
Okay.
So you can still aim.
All right. The more you know. I'll give it a whirl. Oh yeah, no. Someone said I literally lose vision when nervous. Do you know what he means? Like the tunnel vision. Like you kind of super zone in on like whatever it is that you're looking at, and you kind of lose the calm oversight. That's what I run into a lot. Yeah, that's terrible. Like your blood vessels constrict and everything.
I usually use peripheral vision to read, so I'll like kind of look at patterns, like in the middle of a pattern or something.
Oh really?
But
interesting.
Oh yeah, that's why I can't read like Air-10 without hidden, is because the appearance order isn't as cut and dry. So
fascinating. Okay, really? I didn't know that. I thought the optimal way was for everyone to just look at, or at least for consistent players, to always look at individual notes and little parts. Really.
I think if you read by peripheral vision, it might it's sort of a thing where you know where the note, like you kind of know the general vicinity on the screen where it's going to be.
Yeah.
Like because you've played so many maps, so it kind of maybe it's just something where you just it becomes subconscious. It's just more based on like looking at the order that things appear in.
Fascinating. All right. No, I always, well, at least lately, I always approached it the opposite way, where I felt like just going for your peripherals is the worst thing you can possibly do, because that's when I personally get shit misses, is when I don't properly look at every note. Then again, I also think that ties into the fact that when I don't look at every note individually, I also tend to not complete patterns properly, which is not an issue that you then seem to have, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a big thing with follow points too, is if you look at the follow points as well, it just tells you exactly where you need to go. So
interesting. I never do that either.
I just have I don't know. I'm sure other people maybe do it sometimes. But
shaking my world, man. I wish everyone just said the exact same thing. So after weeks, I could just be like, oh, everyone said the exact same thing. But
this is the way to do it. Yeah. But, there's a lot of different ways to do things in this game. So you can. That's one thing. Like with newer players who like, I know a lot of them sort of sometimes ask top players. I'm sure you've gotten these questions. How do I improve?
Once or twice.
Yeah. But it's, you just gotta think about it. Like you can't, because everybody does these things in such a different way. You just have to think about what works for you and what you think will make you better. So,
right. And then just commit to that approach for a little bit, see what it gives you, and then reevaluate. Right.
Oh yes. Constantly pick yourself apart, because you just gotta, like, if you want to improve.
What are your views on accuracy related skill sets? Is that something that also just kind of came to you, or was there any specific approach that you took?
I think accuracy is also tied to consistency, but more as like a result, almost.
Okay, that makes sense.
Can aim well, then you don't have to worry about delaying your hit to actually hit the note. And if you can read well, then you know what you're seeing. You can understand what's on the screen. So I think they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, aside from, of course, like listening to the music, and maybe if you want to go super far, like thinking of what kind of like what the sounds in the music the mapper's mapping to, but that's out there. Like, you don't need to do that. It's just like, yeah, timing. Well, listen. And I think hidden helps with that too, even though you can read the fading. I know Toy does that. Toy reads the fading on hidden.
Oh, really? What the hell?
I did it. Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, any viewer questions that you might have, go for it. Is there any other stuff that comes to mind for you personally that you feel is very important that is maybe under-addressed, or anything that comes to mind for you?
I'll try to think about that for a second.
All right, sure. Oh, Sky Tuna, can you ask him if the skins make differences for his play?
Oh, yeah.
Because I see you switch skins a lot, right?
Yeah, I don't have a skin. I just use whatever. So I categorize skins kind of into like light and heavy. It's kind of based on like what the hit sounds are, how everything sort of looks. So if it has like a big, bulky, solid cursor, like solid color cursor, and those weird like bubble, like, okay, I'm explaining this poorly, but
no worries.
If it's light, so it has a small cursor trail,
right?
Like those clicky hit sounds, it feels better for double time.
Oh.
It kind of, yeah, as opposed to like using an old Axarious skin or something for double time. It just makes more sense. I think those skins are optimized, whether it's like, I'm sure it's conscious, because I know Rafis's double time skin works very well for double time. Some old Azer skins definitely work well for Hidden Hard Rock, so I think they're just more optimized for that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you do switch around a lot, it can help you like bring out your skill in those specific areas, I guess.
Do you ever feel that switching a skin will kind of help you overcome like a specific mind block that you have?
Oh,
or is that not really what?
Yeah. If a skin feels completely different, well, I mean, first of all, like sometimes if you retry over and over, you lose focus. I think that's a big thing.
Right.
That a lot of people do is if you just retry and retry, you start like zoning out on the easy parts, and then when the hard parts come that you don't really understand, you're zoned out. So
yeah, exactly.
You kind of just do the same thing over and over. But if you switch skins, you're seeing different things. I think it just gives you a fresh perspective on things.
Right. That makes sense. Is there any specific approach that you have to streams? Because finger control on those is really, really difficult for a lot of people, me included. Like, I kind of feel like I'm always just trying to listen to the speed and then try and adjust to that, but then I always find myself eventually going too fast or too slow, and listening to the rhythm doesn't necessarily seem to help.
I don't think it's a reading thing. I know, of course, there's some aim to streams, but I think streams are like the perfect, like, you know, that's how you know that your hands and your hands are both synchronized, sort of. But for the tapping part, it's kind of just practicing. Like, you just gotta do them until you can assess
conclusion.
them. Yeah, I know, right? you just practice. You just first you start on slower streams, so you build that finger control by trying to assess those slower streams, and then as you work your way up in speed, it kind of it's kind of just a muscle training sort of deal where you just progressive overload. Basically, you just you do things that are too hard for you.
Right.
If you want to improve.
I feel like for a lot of people, part of it is also, like, let's say I do a 160 BPM stream, I might be able to do a lot better consistently than on a 200 BPM. I feel like there's this threshold where it kind of turns from this controlled thing that you're doing into something that is just kind of mashy. Is that?
I think mashing is fine for like establishing a speed, like building the muscles maybe, and as long as you understand what goes into streaming, like it's just alternating like at a defined pace. Like I mean, even alternating on some of those older maps that you were doing earlier.
Yeah, that's
just like a stream,
so
but really
hard.
slow. Yeah, so you just get used to alternating at that like defined speed, and that's all there really is to it. Like,
have you ever had plateaus in any area that you had a really, really hard time overcoming?
I've had plateaus, and right now my plateau's in double time, because I'm just too tired. I can't tap that fast anymore.
Yeah.
But
like a literal stamina thing.
Yeah. But plateaus, otherwise, you just, if you want to break through a plateau like rank wise, you just stop farming and you practice like specific things that you see that you're doing wrong. So if you're a hard rock player and you have perfect accuracy, but you're misaiming things, you just go, you look at that, you go, you practice aim. You just keep doing that until you have good enough aim. You just play aim maps until you have good enough aim to come back to that, whatever you were trying to do.
Right.
And yeah, you kind of, I think there might be steps, and you can kind of see it in the rankings.
Oh yeah,
Maybe.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, where like I know especially at like the super high level, where you kind of unlock an entire group of maps that you can farm.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean.
By
I know what you
increasing
mean.
your skill. Yeah.
It's been really interesting for me because I always feel like my mechanical skill is a lot better than a lot of my other skills, like my reading and my consistency. And every little step that I seem to unlock in terms of my reading, like exponentially helps me on everything else. It's been pretty crazy in that regard.
Reading's the basis of everything. So as long as you have good reading, you can improve on everything else. Rather easy.
How would you say that you know when you can properly read something? For me, it's been looking at every note individually so far, which obviously doesn't go for you. When would you say reading is no longer an issue on something?
Kind of, maybe if you can daydream and still full combo something on it.
Okay.
I think that would probably be a really good marker for not even having to focus on that anymore. But otherwise, maybe if you can consistently full combo stuff, like if you can sight read full combo stuff with decent accuracy, whatever you hold as like decent accuracy.
Right. Do you ever find yourself, because something that I run into a lot on these old maps is that I kind of, especially when it's a funky alt pattern, what will happen is that I kind of not necessarily lose track entirely, but that I find myself not properly finishing the pattern with my eyes either, and that then also means that I'll miss. Do you ever run into that? And if so, how do you generally approach fixing that? Do you just practice the pattern specifically, or?
For like not being able to do a pattern correctly, like
right, like kind of losing track.
Oh, losing track of
Like it might be a very straightforward pattern, but still, it's just kind of not too hard necessarily, because you know how the pattern works, but you can't do it.
I think maybe dissecting the pattern is important, because on back and forths, I have this big problem, like direct back and forths. Like, you know, the beginning of oh, what is that Waterman one about the dicks?
What?
There's gigantic.
Oh. Okay,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the one.
All right, about the dicks. Yeah, I feel you.
They have this entire section at the beginning where it's just back and forths.
Yeah.
Twice, and oh, it took me like a year to full combo it just because of that beginning part.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean.
But you just have to, for me, like, you look at the lines specifically that you're following and break them up into like, it's kind of like, I know there was some old advice, I don't know if it was on Jesse's forum post or what, but that when you're doing squares, you should break them down into 2 lines.
Right.
And just completely separate 2 lines.
Yeah.
I think it works like that for other patterns too. Like stars and like weird pentagons, just in a different way. Like you just have to, it's just more complicated.
So yeah, you just have to cut it up into digestible little parts.
Mm-hmm. And then once you've mastered that, you have that forever. Or yeah, I mean, you can play another map with that exact pattern, and eventually it'll just become subconscious if you played it enough.
Right.
You'll know exactly how to do that pattern.
How do you approach like full screen jumps when you don't necessarily look at the notes themselves? Do you then actually do focus on them individually, or because that seems to be a lot of like, if I don't properly look at full screen jumps, I will miss them.
I'm just I kind of go for it. Like, as long as you know where on the screen it is, you can kind of just fling your cursor over there and
all right, whatever works.
It hits the note. I mean, yeah, eventually you just know where like the specific spot that note is on the screen, like through your peripheral vision. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of works.
Just YOLO it. All right.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's literally the opposite of anything that's ever worked for me. Not saying, obviously, if it works for you, then it works, right? But it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Or you can look at follow points. This is, like, I don't get how people can play without follow points because they're so important to reading for me. Like, you have to, if you just look at the follow point, you can take so much from that. Like, you can play an entire song just looking at follow points.
I mean, that makes sense for you, right? If you mainly use peripherals, then it makes sense that you need to get that information elsewhere. So it makes sense then for you to use follow points for that instead of the actual.
Yeah, that's probably where the rest of that comes from.
So in a sense, you're kind of it's okay. All right, okay, things are starting to make sense again. My world is a little bit less Twilight Zone. Okay, cool. Was there anything that came up with you that you feel gets too little attention, or something that anything really?
Low AR maybe, but well, actually low AR definitely, but not super low AR like easy, because that's like an entirely different thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's like playing a different game. I'm talking like AR8, so like playing old Dragon Force maps.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that you can take from that, because it sort of, especially on the stream parts, it helps you focus on what movements you're making, like where you're placing your cursor, and how fast, how you're controlling your cursor. And at the same time, it makes you focus on what you're tapping, like the speed, and it makes you listen to the music more.
Right.
Because there's not as much instant feedback from like AR10, where you can just look at something and you know how long it's going to be from when it appears to when you can click it after some time.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, with AR8 it's a lot harder, I think, and it's helpful.
So in that sense, an interesting thought that I'll throw at you. I couldn't, a couple days ago, Cookazy was spectating me, and I couldn't help but ask him some questions. One of which was because I've been focusing so hard on my low AR reading, because for me personally, I felt that any little improvement that I made in AR was like this exponential thing and everything else. I was like, hey, what is your view on, you know, snapping and this low AR reading? And he basically said, if a map, basically any map, I'm comfortable reading up until like low AR8 type AR, and that was just mind-blowing to me, because some maps get so complicated once you go down that 8.5 to 8 AR. Would you say that the fact that he can do those types of things on that low AR will then mean that stuff on higher AR is just basically a walk in the park in comparison?
I think, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If you can do something like consistently, not memorization, like reading, on like higher node densities and low AR, I think comprehension at higher ARs just becomes like super easy. It's not so much about about comprehension at that point. It's more about reaction.
Right, which your reaction is generally, I feel, going to be perfect in that case. If you can do it on a lower AR, that means that you can properly finish all the movements. So then the reading aspect is not even, it's like barely even a thing, and you can properly focus on the mechanical aspect.
Yeah,
was my conclusion to that whole ordeal. How do you feel about snapping personally? I feel that whenever I properly snap things, it just means that I've properly read what I'm doing. Like, if I can't read something properly, I can't snap it either. So therefore, if I snap properly, it means that I've read something properly, and I'll be able to do it consistently. Is that something at all that you've focused on, or?
I don't know if I can snap even. Like, maybe look at my, I used to ask on the OSU subreddit, like back when OU was there and like Synchrostar. I asked them, like, how can I become good without snapping? And they're like, no. Like, okay, well, whatever. I'll get good without snapping anyway. So I don't know what happens.
Fuck yeah, I'll do it anyway.
Yeah, I think maybe I can snap, but it's become natural. Like, it's just, as things speed up and as you get better aim, I think it just becomes more snappy, because yeah, you know where everything is. You know exactly how to get there. So you just go. I don't know.
Right.
I think I think snapping, if you train snapping, maybe that would be better for your mental, like, log, sort of, maybe.
Right. I understand where you're going with that.
Yeah, you know where your cursor is while the notes are appearing. Like, I don't know.
It kind of forces you to properly finish everything. It's the same thing. Is there any like specific type of advice that you have for players that have maybe been playing for like a year and really do want to keep working and getting better? Would you say your approach is a very, no pun intended, approachable one, or other stuff that you might feel would help a lot of people?
I think mine was probably not approachable, just because it seems like a lot of people kind of don't want as much work.
Right. Yeah.
In such a dense amount of time. And I think that's what helped me get good so fast, is like the reinforcement wasn't happening over like weeks. It was happening over 1 week or like a few days. I was playing so much that it was like building, I was constantly building on those skills and perfecting them. Like, not perfecting them, but you know.
Yeah, trying.
Trying my best. And I think if you're following the way that I did it, you have to put in so much of that work. Like, not work, but it's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're gonna be.
There's a very specific way on how to make that fun, and that's not for everyone. So I think.
Yeah.
The message there.
When I'm grinding, like, skill, that's what I find fun. Like, that's when people are like, how do you not get bored? What motivates you to grind skill? It's just like getting better.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. A lot of people don't realize that the only way to get better really is to find a way for yourself that works into that. Like, you can't, if you are the type of person that only enjoys playing random multiplayer maps, and that's the only way you're going to get enjoyment, then you're just not going to get better. You have to find that way that incorporates both.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense, actually.
All right. I think we're only at 45 minutes, but I mean, when you're out of stuff to talk about, you're out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's how it is. Yeah, I think for as far as things that are neglected, AR is the biggest. Maybe precision, but I think AR is definitely the biggest.
Would you say that working on precision really just comes down to making sure that you focus as much as you can on properly doing every movement, just as much? Like, you try real hard to center everything, or
precision, like more to aim precision,
right?
So I think if you're doing like small circles, like really small circles, like CS7,
right,
it's gonna take a long time to get used to, but it helps really like drive home. I think this might be a good thing for consistency as well, is it really helps you buckle down on your aim. Like, since everything else will be bigger, if you can full combo a map on CS7, it'll be no problem on something like 6 or 5 even, just because it's so much less precise.
Interestingly enough, that is not at all the case for me. Maybe that is for people that can properly read. For me, frequently what I'll even find is that when the circle size is larger, it is harder for me to read because there's more to keep track of, in a way, like more literal pixels to keep track of. Yeah, no, that doesn't
sometimes.
Yeah, right. It's I'll like not be more consistent on Virgin code, for example, with its default versus if I change the CS. But then again, I think that ties largely into the fact that my reading is absolutely shit in comparison to a lot of players like yourself. I'm sure that your reading is actually maybe much better than you give yourself credit for. Not saying that you shit talk your own reading, but
stuff. Like, I play like 2013 stuff usually. So like the newer maps I have a lot of trouble on, actually.
Oh, really?
Because like
interesting,
all the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Because older maps, they might be like, they're complex, but like in a completely different way. They look a lot simpler. I think the mapping style is a lot simpler. So just having these like really wubby like slider changes and slider speed changes, it doesn't make any sense to my brain. So I screw up.
No, I know exactly what you mean. Like, there's no real way of seeing the slider and then knowing how it's gonna go, because it completely depends on the mapper's interpretation of what happens to happen in the music, which could be anything, because those songs are just so random seeming. So I know exactly what you mean.
There's no patterns to really like to what happens. I think Skystar perfected how to do that, like, how to make those really wubby maps and still make it feel organic to the player.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because like Neuronesia, I think that's probably one of my favorite maps of all time, just because of how well it depicts.
It has a really nice flow to it. Yeah, exactly.
And I think people should definitely take lessons from that. Like, I know, who's the 09 Kami? Something like that.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah. I know what you mean.
That's like the biggest headache for me. I can't play his maps. He changes every slider like speed, so it's not saying that his maps are bad, but they're definitely a nightmare to read.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I enjoy them, but like some of them are like borderline, and then others are just way over the top, where it's just like, what am I even looking at?
He tried to emulate Hollowings, I think, in one of them, and it was like Hollowings was taken like, I don't know, it was on something. That's what would have come out.
Do you have any closing thoughts for like generally what I like to say is worst practices and best practices, even if that means repeating something from earlier?
Best practices. Oh yeah, get good sleep.
Right.
Get good sleep. Because if you're tired, you'll get frustrated.
And you can't focus. Yeah, everything.
Oh, yeah.
And your brain will just take in less and everything. It's a huge thing.
Yeah, play low AR if you want to get good at like aim and stuff. I mean, you don't have to, but other things, I guess, practice, competition. It's always good to find somebody to compete with, and if you can't find somebody that'll compete with you socially, then just look at people around your ranks stuff and snipe their top scores.
Right.
Yep. Other than that, I mean, really, yeah, you gotta know that you can do it, man. You gotta know that you'll get there someday.
Never give up. No, I think the competition thing is a really good way of because the hard thing about Osu is that improving is very straightforward, but what to do to get that straightforward improvement is much more obscure because there's a million different things that you can be doing. I think that the approach of picking someone as a rival is a really great way of artificially creating that direction.
If
that makes sense.
Like a benchmark,
right?
Like to compare yourself against, which is what a lot of people want. If you're better than a person, like you'll know, kind of, especially like in ranks and stuff. If you can beat all their scores, you're better than them. So then you can, once you've done that, you can just move on to the next person, and it becomes a very, very simple process.
Would you say that making or trying not to specialize too much is also something that would help? Because you were pretty specialized in Hinaharak. I don't know if you feel like that kind of like bit you in the ass in a way, or if anything, it helps you to be able to focus on one specific thing.
I think by specializing, I don't think I really specialized. Like recently, yes. Recently, I've heavily specialized in Hidden Hard Rock, but up to my ban, I was more all around. Like I played quite a bit of double time, and I think being all around it doesn't like it only matters if you're playing tournaments or if you want to feel like you can do everything.
Okay.
Because if you can do everything, you'll get double the performance points. I mean, you'll be super overranked if that's true. What you want. But like if you specialize, it really helps build skills individually, especially hard rock. Because I actually learned Hidden Hard Rock from you. You had like this post on Reddit that told people how to get into Hidden Hard Rock. Yeah.
Really?
So
when was that?
I was like, yeah. I was
like 5 years ago?
To look for it, but yeah, it was a long time ago. And yeah, I took that advice.
I will probably read that and then disagree with literally every single thing in there.
It's all it is like you were like, okay, learn hard rock first, and then we'll learn hidden, and then mash them together. It was like a simple thing.
Funny thing is that I can't even play Hidden Hard Rock that well. That's funny. I didn't even. I have like the slightest, faintest memory of what you're talking about. That's pretty funny.
I think specialization, it really helps, especially with hard rock, is it helps everything else. I mean, maybe not speed if you're a hard rock player. Like you can, I know Rolk is pretty fast on specific stuff, but like his overall speed isn't. Like,
don't mind the fact that he's frozen.
But he's a god at hard rock, so it's like.
Yeah. Oh, do you feel that? So I feel like yes, specializing is a good thing if you wanna have a clear direction and how to get better. But I also think it's always very important to keep in mind not to go too far in one direction. Like if you only play hard rock, your reading is going to not be very good because you're playing a largely reactionary versus, versus properly pattern oriented stuff like that. Same with, especially with someone like DT. I have no fucking clue how someone like Rafis played mainly hidden DT for like 2 years and still has good reading. I have absolutely no idea. But for 99% of people that aren't Rafis, it's going to kill your reading if you focus fully on one specific thing.
And I think if you think of reading in a different way, like rather than just like I know if you think of it like slow and fast, that's good. Like that's a good starting point. But I think thinking that an AR is off limits just because you've gone too high. Since AR is like more about comprehension, sort of, like as long as you can comprehend it, like I think if you're just able to think about like AR8 in a specific way, then when you're playing high AR, like it shouldn't affect it.
I get where you're coming from, right?
Yeah.
It
might have been a bit confusing.
No, I get what you mean. It's because it really is the same map. It's just slightly, in terms of appearance, it just looks a little bit different, really. And I think that what someone like Rafis really did was approach his improvement by making sure that he never really gave up on his pattern completion and all that good stuff. Hence why he never really lost his reading necessarily, where I feel like a lot of DT players or hard rock players will just go too fast and like not really properly build those skills to the point where they should be moving on.
Is rushing. That's what a lot of newer players do. Like I think that ties into the weird speed thing that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Is the players rush to play that stuff that they see the top players playing. And that's not very good for your fun.
It doesn't build your fundamentals. Like it's like building a house and then just leaving it half open and then putting up walls in the second floor, and it's like you don't even have a functional toilet.
Yeah.
And you're living in this house. It doesn't make sense, right? Which is really hard because, again, and I keep coming back to that, it's like most people play Osu for just fun and just like lighthearted, I want to feel good. But on the other hand, they see all these other players do shit and they want to get good as well. But there's this disconnect between, I want to have fun playing, and I want to get better, which is just for most people, it's just not a realistic situation. In that sense, like people like you and me kind of got lucky in the sense that is the process that we enjoy. We get fulfillment out of challenging ourselves consistently and getting better that way, which is the only way to really get better. But for a lot of people, they don't get as much enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a common link, like up in the top ranks. That's why most people seem to be like sort of similar, like in a way when you get up there, is because like they all think in that way where they had fun getting where they were. So
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, it's on the subject of like specialization and stuff like that. I think if you specialize too much and then you want to do something else, it becomes an even bigger problem.
Right.
Because I remember Silver when he was first growing as a hard rock player.
Yeah.
All he could read was AR10.
Yeah.
He couldn't read anything below it. So he got super frustrated and like had to go through the process of relearning AR9.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. It is exhausting. It is really exhausting because it's like I should totally be able to do this, and yet my brain just derps out entirely. It's like when I'm playing fucking like a 4-star map at AR8, and my brain just derps out. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's so easy, and it's just this process over and over and over. And it's very confrontational. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like a stitch in time saves 9 sort of thing, where if you maintain those skills, you eventually you just don't you won't have nearly as hard of a problem when you're trying to like use them again, because you have them.
Right.
You'll have them for a long time. So.
Is there any way that you personally really work on your reading specifically? Do you ever really grind like low AR stuff to kind of solidify that, or?
For reading, it's just like playing it, like a lot of it. Playing a lot of the game so that you know what to expect. Sometimes you can make like little tiny predictions. They don't always work out, but just yeah, playing it well. Usually sorts it out. I mean, it's just playing a lot.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because sorry, I'm thinking. I'm just trying to like bridge the gap between my personal experience of if I play a lot of AR-10, I will eventually become like just start shit missing. Versus someone like you who doesn't really seem to have that issue. I think largely that just comes down to the different fundamental approach of you are someone that will always try and finish a pattern properly, whereas I might not have that as strong of an inclination to do that, and that then kind of starts building up on itself and like become worse and worse over time. So it doesn't necessarily work for everyone that way, which is interesting. But
no, sorry. Sometimes I'll just like a lot of the time I'll actually just like restart if I start missing. Like just if you just, and I think that helps with consistency too. If you're playing the same parts over and over, I think that's part of why retrying helped with consistency for me.
Right.
While it might not help for other people. If you're playing through the same parts when you're trying to full combo something, like actively, and you're being exposed to the same part over and over, and you get to a point where you can full combo it over and over, I think that kind of gives you the expectation that you'll be able to full combo other things, like
right.
over and over, as long as it's something you know how to do.
I have a lot to think about after this. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm still terrified of when you start doing well again, so please go easy on me. I'm not ready yet to be number 4 US. After
looking for number 1, man.
If you get there, oh my god, I don't know what I'm gonna say, but yeah. Thank you so much for hanging out.
Yeah.
I appreciate having you on, and yeah, I'm sure I'll see you around.
Okay. Yep. I'll be around, probably.
Probably. Yeah. All right, have a good one, dude.